Alright, welcome to this video for section 1-1, the very first video of your 8th grade algebra. And you'll find that this first chapter is pretty much all review. It should be review, but it's also very important review. So we're going to go through it. And if you're struggling with this first chapter especially, you need to come and talk to me. You need to find someone. You need to make sure that you're doing the homework and asking questions on all the answers and whatnot. Okay, because it's a very important chapter, but it's also meant to be a review. So section 1-1 is about variables and expressions, pretty much the baseline of what algebra is. So our goal here is to write algebraic expressions. So we're going to do it in a few different ways here. So the first vocabulary for the year, we have the words quantity, variable, algebraic expression, and numeric expression. And I pulled this right out of the book, and it says, there's a couple of pieces here. I'll give you a second if you want to pause it and just read through this. I'll kind of summarize it as well. So it says, a mathematical quantity is anything that can be measured or counted. So that's important. So I'm going to underline that in green. I mean, it's pretty common sense, but it's anything that can be measured or counted. I'm not going to go into too much more detail about that. I'm not sure why that moved on us. All right. Next, it says some quantities remain constant. Those are called constants. You'll find we'll talk about that later. Others change or vary, and we're going to call those variables. All right. So going down to where the term variable is highlighted, a variable is we'll do this in purple, symbol, usually a letter, but it technically doesn't have to be, that is representing a value of a variable quantity. And you'll notice it can change. We don't know what that number is. We can plug in anything for it. That's why it's called a variable. All right, and then the other two words I'm going to underline in blue. The first one is an algebraic expression, and the second one is a numeric expression. Really, the two differences between those are what kind of a phrase it is, if it includes just numbers and symbols, or if it includes numbers, symbols, and variables. So algebraic expressions have variables. So I'm going to highlight that there. So algebraic expressions contain variables. Numeric expressions, that word numeric kind of looks like number. They contain only numbers and symbols. All right. So as we go on, we're going to talk about a couple different phrases in math. Not phrases, but algebraic expressions is what I meant. So it's a type of phrase, but it just has symbols, numbers, and variables. And we're going to come across some different terms that could represent addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So I'm going to flip back and forth to this one and just write them in there as we go. But we're going to start here with using algebraic expressions for addition or subtraction. So this first example A, it says write an expression for the word phrase. So it says 30 more than a number n. So there we go. There's that example of a variable. That's a variable number n. I don't know what it is. You can model this a number of different ways, but here's the model that we're using for right now, just with blocks. So 32 more than a number n. When you think of more than, you should think of addition. So 32 added on to the number n. And we don't know what that's going to be because we don't know what n is yet. But this is a way of modeling it. 32 n and 32 make up whatever we're looking for. So it would be n plus 32. So that plus that came from more than. We're going to put that in for addition. All right. Let's do another example just to get some more familiarity with this. 58 less a number. And I'm going to change that. That's kind of worded weird. Instead of less, I'll just use the word minus. because sometimes it's tricky if you say less or less than. They're both going to deal with subtraction, but then it actually changes the order of how it would be subtracting. I'm going to say minus for this one. 58 minus a number n. So we know we have this total of 58, and then we're going to take away this n to get whatever this other, we're going to take away this n to get whatever this other section would be. So it would be 58 minus n. So we'll say subtraction, minus is a word for subtraction. Less would also be, or less than. Okay, so there's a couple different ones for addition and subtraction. Kind of gave that away up on top. Now let's do a couple for multiplication and division. And we're going to have to take this. We'll do one at a time here. So this one down at the bottom, we're going to use this phrase again. It says 8 times a number n. So let's look at that. That's where we're at. 8 times. The word times hopefully should be familiar to you. 8 times n. That would be 8 times n. Or 8 times n could be with a dot, or just 8n is what we'll see more commonly this year. So we're going to put times in here for multiplication. Okay? And to get an understanding of what times actually means, uh, 8 times n, that means there's 8 n's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's how you represent 8n. And depending on what n is, if it was 5, we could do 5 times 8, which is 40, or 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. That would tell us what that question mark is. But we don't know what n is right now. Alright, so let's do one. I think this is going to be division then. So the quotient of a number and 5. Oh, there's another word for quotient. Alright, so or for division is quotient. Okay, if you think of quotient, we're going to think of division. That is the answer to a division problem. That would be the quotient. Okay, so continuing here. So the quotient of a number and n, or n and 5. So n divided by 5 is is another way of saying that. You can write it like this, or more commonly like this. So you have this whole section of n, and you're dividing into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. So depending on what n is, let's say n is 10, if you divide it into 5 sections, that would give you 2 in each section. Okay, so quotient is another word for division. Okay, so here's what we got so far. For addition, we found more than. Subtraction, we found minus or less than. Multiplication is a word for multiplication could be times. A word for division could be quotient. There's a whole lot more we're going to get to, though. All right, so there's that. Now what happens if we are doing two different operations at once? So maybe we're doing addition and multiplication in the same phrase. Well, here's some examples. So the first one, here's your phrase. 3 more than twice a number x. I'll actually give you 3 phrases here. 3 more than twice a number x. So more than, that should be addition. We just said that was addition. When you say twice, though, I think that would be 2 times a number x. So that's going to actually be 2 times x. So we'll say twice. That could be a word for multiplication. I'll put that in red. Or it could be addition as well. It could be just adding the same thing. But anyway, so 3 more, 3 plus 2 times that. 3 plus 2x. Let's see if that's right. There we go. 3 plus 2x. Alright, so we got 9. And we've got less than, that's subtraction we said. The quotient, so that's division. So the quotient of 6 and x. So that would be division. So I'm going to say this is probably 9 less than, it's not 9 minus, so we're going to go 6 times x or divided by x. Well, I'm going to erase that now. So if this is the quotient of 6 and a number x, it's going to be 6 divided by x. But then it's 9 less than that. So it wouldn't be 9 minus that, it'd be that minus 9. You gotta look at it as you're taking 9 away from it. If you're saying 9 less than something, you're taking 9 away from it. So we'd write it as 6 over x divided by 9. Let's see if I did that right. 6 over x divided by, or minus 9. There we go. Alright, last one. The product. Ooh, we haven't used that term yet. So we don't know what we'd be meaning by the product. That's actually multiplication. So we'll add this here. Product, yep, product would be multiplication. Okay. The product of 4 and the sum of a number x and 8. So we'll write this as 4 times, I have to figure out this is sum. If you don't remember what sum is, that is actually addition. So the sum of a number and x, number x and 8, so it'll be x plus 7. That's x plus 7. Or we could do n plus 7, whatever you want to use for a variable. I'm actually going to erase that now. Yeah, that's why I wrote that. So the product, we're going to do 4 times x plus 7. Okay, and it's actually the product of this, and I'll put that in parentheses because it's the product of this and that. Okay? And let's see. And they wrote it just a little bit differently. Instead of doing 4 times x plus 7, you can do 4 right next to x plus 7. And there you go. So that's pretty much what we're doing today. Just being able to write the phrase, the algebraic expression for a, if you're given the words, the actual phrase of it. But with that, I also want to go backwards, and I want to give you a couple phrases to work with and try and figure out what, how you could say that in words. So we're going to do 3, that'll be 1, we'll do 1 more, like, that's nice. Alright, so if you want to pause this and try and figure out, this would be a good thing to write down, a good chart to write down in your notes, just comparing the expression with what the words would be for it. Okay, so if you want to pause it and try and figure them out. And I'm going to also write down some possibilities in here. So 3 plus an n, and guess what? You could just write it as 3 plus n. You could write n more than, we talked about more than 3. You could write n added to 3. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can do that. You could do the sum of 3 and n. Did we say sum? We didn't put that in here yet, but sum. And then the other one that's different. So we did sum, product, quotient. This would be difference in here. And I can put like divided in there as well. We'll come up with some more. Here we go. M divided by 14. You can write it just as it sounds. Whoops. Apologize for my handwriting. We said quotient, so you could say the quotient of m and 14. There's two ways. Let's go to this third one now. If you'll notice, they're all constant quantities. There's no variable quantities in there because there's no variables. So we'll go 5 plus 4 minus 2. Well, you could write it like that. Quantity 5 plus 4 minus 2. Why don't we use that less than term? Let's do 2 less than the quantity 5 plus 4 is how you would say that. When you have it in parentheses, you say the quantity of it. So then the quantity 5 plus 4. All right, we'll leave it at that. And then the last one. This is very similar to one we did just before. So if you remember, right next to parentheses, that means multiplication. And inside of there, that's subtraction. So you can say the product of 4 and x minus 2, or say the product of 4 and 2 less than x, 2 less than a number. When we say a number, that just means we don't know what the number is, so we're going to use a variable. So a variable in that one was x. Okay. So far, let's see, more than some. This could be just regular adding. This one would be subtraction, so subtract, minus, less than, less, difference. Multiplication, we got times, twice, product, and division. So far we've got dividing and quotient. All right, those are some great words and phrases that we could get out of these different operations so far. So the point here is we're working with variables. So variable, a couple of things to recap here. A variable is typically a letter, could be a symbol to represent a number, an unknown number, or a number that can change. All right, and we've got different types of expressions. Basically, we've got numeric. Oops. Too much. Numeric expressions and algebraic. Your whole life you've been working with numeric expressions. That's just with numbers and symbols. So like 2 plus 2. The thing that we're adding now with algebraic is we could do like n plus 2. It has a variable in it. Okay? That's what algebraic expressions are. When determining phrases or determining what the algebra for it would look like, you're going to look for keywords. There'll be times this year when we're going to look for more keywords for word problems and such. So these types of keywords, it's a whole lot more that we can think of too that you've learned. I can get to it. It's these keywords here, a whole bunch of them that can help you explain and verbalize, really actually talk about different algebraic expressions that we're going to talk about this year. Okay, so hopefully now that you learned all that, you are able to write algebraic expressions, and when we get to some practice, you'll be able to do it on your own. Okay, so that's section 1.1 on variables and expressions. See you next time.